are unmuted.
Okay, good evening, it's 6:30. And I call the meeting of Falmouth Public Schools to order for April 25th, 2023. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded. If any member of the public would like to make an audio or video recording of this meeting, please notify me by raising your hand, either in person or remote, and I will notify the public per Massachusetts public meeting laws. Do we have anyone who's making a recording tonight? And your name for the record. Gilda Geis. Great, thank you, Gilda. We will begin with our mission and vision. Melissa.
Falmouth Public Schools mission. The Falmouth Public Schools creates world-class student learning experiences. Our Clippers are empowered to pursue their goals with curiosity, integrity, and resiliency. Falmouth Public Schools vision. Clippers are creative, inquisitive, and engaged learners who participate in their community as socially responsible citizens. Clippers effectively communicate and solve problems that impact the world around them.
Thanks, Melissa. Terry, your fishbowl.
Oh, my favorite thing. Okay. This is from, I think it says drum, it's a fourth grader with T-ticket. My favorite things in school are recess, talking to my friends, lunch, snack, and nap. That's for him. He's a better person than me with that. And this is from McKenna, who goes to Falmouth High School and is a junior. And high school students say this often to start a little bit later. So those are two comments from our students.
Great, thank you very much. Students, public comment. Members of the public are welcome to speak about items that are not on the agenda. Comments should be limited to 2 minutes in length. Due to the open meeting law, there will be no debate or action taken on public comment items. For items on the agenda, the chair may accept comments from the public following the committee's discussion of an item. Additional comments and feedback can also be submitted by email to schoolcommittee@falmouth.k12.ma.us. Do you have any public comment in person or remote this evening? Yes, and if you could come to the table and state your name. Yes, you can go first. Hi, Jen.
Hi. My name is Jennifer McCarthy. I'm a parent at Superintendent. Can I begin now?
Yes, please.
Hi, Jen. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the school committee for taking the time to listen to parents. We appreciate the communication and the time you spend. We're hopeful that we can work together on developing guardrails for screen time and providing an individual screen time report for parents. I am relieved to know that the timeline for mastery-based learning and Clipper journals will be pushed back. My hope is that the guardrails can be put into place before we pilot mastery-based learning. I look forward to seeing that data that shows whether this will benefit all Falmouth students. Thank you again for your efforts.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Any other public comments? Hi, you can come up and state your name for the record, please.
Sure. Lee Ann Mannillo. And I work as a TA at T-Ticket, and I also live here in Falmouth. So good evening. I'm here once again to ask about issues for which I'm still seeking some answers. I'd like to know how much has been spent since 2018 on modern teacher, modern classroom, and the digitization of Falmouth public schools. What was so wrong with our district that we needed to make a complete curriculum overhaul? What data supports these decisions or shows that the piloting of such drastic changes has improved our performance? Where is the evidence? How many learning specialists have been added since 2018? How have our ESSER funds been spent? What's left of them? Why, for the love of God, can we not find a way to pay teacher assistants a livable wage when we can find it for everything else? When a 3% cost of living adjustment is measured in change, that's humiliating. Are you aware that the insurance premium increase we just learned of already wipes out almost half of my proposed wage increase? Please do not be ashamed to pay us for our efforts. What better use of public funds could there possibly be than to use them on those who work daily to prevent learning loss? Finally, why have my queries from 7 weeks ago yet to be answered? Unfortunately, which was originally curiosity on my part, has now turned to suspicion. What possible reason could there be for no response to a taxpayer's questions about spending propriety? Is there no answer? And if not, why not? Nobody has attempted to honor me with a response other than my principal. Interestingly, I didn't even ask her because I know she's neither the financial director nor a committee member. But since she was, I'm not asking her, I'm asking all of you, and I'm still waiting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Ryan, can you promote Sarah for her public comment? Hi, Sarah.
Hi, can you hear me clearly?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna start now. I'm going to read aloud a statement from teachers who are afraid to speak up solely for fear of retaliation from this administration. First, we just want to say thank you for the school committee members who have taken the time to speak to teachers, parents, and attend optional meetings to hear concerns from the community. You have helped us feel heard, seen, and valued, which are all things we do not feel from upper administration. At the beginning of the school year, there were a lot of discussion and professional development around this idea of mastery-based learning and Clipper learning journals. At that time, teachers were curious to learn more. As time passed, the forced professional development and lack of response to our questions has changed our feelings from curiosity to unease. Why are we doing this? Why are we making so many fundamental changes in such a short span of time? How can we possibly succeed with so many initiatives without a true understanding of the expectations? The term leaked has been used in reference to teachers sharing information with the public. Leaked is a term that is used when referencing information that should not be shared. Shouldn't the teachers and parents be stakeholders in this decision-making process? Why would we want to keep information from these stakeholders? Why is there such a lack of transparency between administration, teachers, parents, and the school committee? It seems we are all being told a different story. How were teachers invited to participate on the panel for the family forum last evening? Why weren't all teachers invited to the family forum? Before new initiatives are put in place, administration must follow a protocol. From a teacher's perspective, this is not happening. We have combined thousands of years of classroom experience, and yet nobody is asking or listening to what we have to say. Lastly, we've been working all year without a contract. The negotiations committee has worked tirelessly with the district for 2 years to come to an agreement. The only reason we have a contract to vote on is because the state stepped in for arbitration. We will be voting on the proposed contract tomorrow. After reviewing the proposed contract, it seems the district is more focused on implementing new initiatives rather than adequately paying their employees. There are employees who are not making enough to meet their basic needs. They have been forced to take on second jobs or live outside of the town they call home. School committee, we are pleading with you to find out why there is money, where the money is going, because it's not going to the people who work face to face with children every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Ryan, could you promote Terry Alice Hunter, please?
Start troubleshooting.
Hi, Terry.
Right there.
I don't know if she knows.
Hi, Terry, you're on.
Okay, start counting. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a midterm. I just wanted to say that one of the things that I have brought up consistently over the past 2 years is the lack of transparency with parents. And if there's no transparency, there can be no trust. The fact that the school committee, whoever was on the school committee in 2018, was fully aware that our superintendent was the chair of the National Council on Digital Convergence, and then sent an email and lied to me about it is an issue for me. In addition, I don't want to get into the screen time, if it's good or if it's bad, but it seems to me that the school committee knew when Lori came in what her experience was. And her experience could be great because she's been in virtual learning for 15 years. But if that was a plan to where we are now, and the only caveat that stopped it was COVID, that seems to me that there is a conspiracy, but you didn't put the parents in it. You didn't make us part of the whole process. I feel that the school committee and the administration are like a husband and wife, and the parents are the mistress. We only get what you give us, not what we deserve, not what we're paying you for, not what we voted you in for. And the last thing that I want to say is that as a Black person, I'm really offended at that Clipper logo, because that is a daily reminder of African Americans coming here on a Clipper ship. It is a daily reminder that we got here on different ships.
Terry, I hate to cut you off, it's been 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hi, if you could come forward and state your name. Yeah. Thank you. Sure. I was trying to get your identifier.
That's right. Good evening. My name is Sarah Chiguer, and my husband and I have 3 kids here in the Falmouth Public Schools, and we recently relocated back to Falmouth. And I thank you, Dr. Durr, for the family forum last night and the clarity regarding the proposed change in report cards. My comment is around the screen time. It would be helpful to have transparency. Have a screen time report to provide transparency the amount of time our kids are on the screen in school and out of school. As a parent, it's challenging to navigate like what they're using the screens for. So a report on that would be great. I know like in the Apple, you can drill down pretty easily and see, okay, what are my kids doing on the devices? So that would be nice on the Chromebooks and the other devices they're using. And then lastly, I'd love to see an increased focus on outdoor learning and outdoor time for the kids, because it's proven beneficial to the kids to get out and move. And I know like we made front page of the New York Times a few years ago during the pandemic. I would love to continue to see that fostered. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Any other public comments? Hi, if you would come forward and state your name, please.
Hi, my name is Crystal Holden. I am the mother of 2 children in the Falmouth public school system, as well as a 3rd generation Falmouth resident. I'm here as a parent who is eager to understand how much time our children are spending on devices and Chromebooks at school. I'm eager to understand why school issued devices allow access to websites such as YouTube at the elementary school level. It's not necessary, it's inappropriate, and as a parent, it's hard to monitor it if it's going on at school. I'm eager to understand why what seemed to be a wonderful solution that helped in bridging the educational gap during COVID has become an everyday necessity within our schools. I'm eager to understand if we've consulted our trusted and respected town pediatricians surrounding the potential social, emotional, and physical effects on our children. I'm a parent who is eager to understand how a major overhaul in our grading system seems to be underway without consideration to the policy that was created and adopted by this very committee. I am a parent of 2 incredible little boys and the voice of many. We want answers, we want transparency, and we want the best for our children, our teachers, and our community. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Crystal. Any other public comments? Hi, you can come forward.
My name is Tammy Inman. I have 4 children in the Falmouth Public Schools. I went to Falmouth Public Schools myself, and I'm reading a letter from a 1st grade teacher. The 2022-23 academic year began with a day of belonging for the Falmouth Public School staff. A morning where staff listened to diverse speakers discuss belonging and community. Interestingly, Superintendent Durr was not present. Also absent was the still and current contract for Falmouth teachers and paraprofessionals. This is shameful. Since her arrival in 2018, the Falmouth Public Schools have been on a downward trajectory under Lori Durr. Dr. Durr does not respect her staff and does not care about the well-being of the students and families in the Falmouth community. She came to Falmouth with an agenda, and I'm deeply saddened that the school committee has supported many of her poor decisions over the years. Lori Durr has implemented drastic and strategic initiatives that really came to the forefront during the pandemic. Modern Teacher was offered to staff as voluntary PD in the spring of 2020, but then mandated to all staff later that year.
the pandemic is over and has been over for quite some time. So why under Dr. Durr are staff being asked to still implement many aspects of modern teachers in the classroom? Lori Durr has a past with modern teacher. Why has no one explored that further? What are central office administrators being flown to Colorado to present at Modern Teacher Conference? Who is funding it? And why has no one been told about this? Dr. Durr proposed a virtual school, and thank goodness our school committee opposed that. Technology is part of our world and can absolutely aid in teaching and learning, but not to the degree that Dr. Durr would like. I will not place my students on devices for extended periods of time. I can deliver far better instruction than any Chromebook can. Students can receive personalized learning off of devices, contrary to what Dr. Durr and other administrators believe. Teachers have been told that we still need to create playlists and remote learning. When asked why Dr. Durr has stated that staff were doing this prior to the pandemic, I just do not believe it. She has an agenda and has lied time and time again to staff and families. Trust the qualified teachers to deliver instruction to their students in the ways that they see fit. After all, we are the ones in the classroom and know what our students need. Durr's communication to her staff is abysmal. It is incredibly disrespectful to learn information that directly affects me and my students in a newspaper article. Most recently, she shared in a public forum on 4/4/23 that students K through 2 would be taking a foreign language next year. Kindergarten, first and second grade teachers were never given this information, and it is shameful that the people who directly work with the students are never asked for their opinions. The phasing out of report cards and introduction of Clipper learning journals is another example of Dr. Durr and central office administrators making changes that do not have the student's best interest at heart. The Clipper learning journal is a glorified sticker book. How can earning stickers translate into a GPA? When presented with information about Clipper learning journals at professional development, staff have been very vocal in their opposition for this. The experts leading this upheaval of our grading system cannot answer our very valid questions. Why are our questions and concerns being brushed aside? We started this school being lectured on respecting the feelings and opinions of others. Shouldn't the teachers be included in that? She has done more harm to the Falmouth Public Schools than good. Her actions need to be seriously evaluated, and she needs to be held accountable for her wrongdoings.
Tammy, explain this.
Staff review.
Any other public comments?
Hi.
In the 1970s, open concept school buildings were the rage. Our cutting edge educational leaders said it would create opportunities for collaboration and a more flexible use of space. Well, it resulted in chaos, and it was band-aided by walls and partitions. You can ask 40 years of FHS alums, and we'll tell you that that cutting edge decision was an expensive mistake. As a pediatric OT for the last 20 years and a mom of 3, I have witnessed and lived my own theory to practice mishaps. Great ideas that need some adjustment in real life. As a parent and employee of Falmouth Public Schools, I sit alongside many of you wearing my different hats. We know our kids are growing up in a time of political divisions and agendas, and I come tonight to ask all of you not to draw lines in the sand that change has to be good or bad, and tradition has to be good or bad. Kids need strong, engaged leaders, parents, and guardians. They need us to set clear boundaries and hold high expectations. Kids also need strong teachers to be at the center of curriculum decisions with parents and support staff as partners. Whew, I'm trying to get this out in 2 minutes. Grade level standards or teach the area of the triangle, but as an OT, I can adapt almost any task when I have the opportunity to collaborate with flexible and talented teachers. Working together, we can use or remove technology depending on the task to maximize our student success, and that is education at its best. Technology can be an amazing teaching tool and provide a newfound independence and differentiated instruction when used appropriately. But as an OT, I want my kindergartners' tools to be crayons and math cubes. I want my elementary students to return to keeping their Chromebooks on carts and use them as tools when needed. Yet in balance, I want my upper grade students to learn how to use home Chromebook, digital learning tools like Schoology, organize digital materials, navigate schedules, unfinished tasks, online discussions that will help them prepare for college and careers. Our students' developmental level and educational needs should guide our path as we find the balance between change and tradition when it comes to technology. I want to ask the adults in the room to remind yourselves it's an opportunity to model for our kids how to present ideas, listen to each other, ask clarifying questions, and reflect on our own agendas and how they can create blind spots. I don't want what's potentially desired to be cutting edge to result in another expensive mistake, nor do I want the solution to be building morals and precision. Our kids are counting on us to work together.
Thank you, Megan. Any other public comments? Yeah, if you could come forward, state your name.
Hi, I am Dan Lake, a parent of two kids in the Falmouth school system. Pretty sure I'm only gonna 2 minutes. I'm concerned that there are insufficient processes in place to maintain collaborative relationships between the school committee, the school administration, teachers, parents, and the community at large. The school committee, teachers, and parents need to be timely informed of potential changes in the school system and provided evidence-based information to support these changes. In addition to providing opportunities for parents and teachers to voice their opinions when there is substantial concern around an issue, the committee and administration need to publicly state how they are responding to that feedback. There also needs to be a mechanism through which teachers can provide anonymous, candid feedback without fear of retaliation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? No. Seeing none, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. We appreciate it. Okay. Next on our agenda is, or first on our agenda is a presentation of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Mr. St. Julian. Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. Let's see if I can do this correctly. And make sure I have time. Ryan, help me out. What am I doing first? I'm gonna share my thing, right? Can I zoom? Sorry, everyone. We actually practiced this and still I'm still okay. Okay. Fantastic. Boom. Seeing it, right?
No, it's seeing it.
Oh, it's seeing it? No,
Go to slideshow.
okay. Oh, fantastic. All right, so thank you everyone for taking this on this. Again, my name is Henry St. Julian. I am the Director of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. It's been a privilege to be here, and I'm very excited to be here right now. So not only is it a privilege to be here, but also I love that this school has been a place where we're centering on equity, diversity, inclusion. It is in our strategic plan, it's in our theory of action, it's in Clipper experience, triple, and basically the mission statements right here done by teachers, and teachers said that we need to respect, recognize and embrace all students. We need to look at every characteristic, visible and invisible, and we need to create this beloved community. And it's not just with students, but also with teachers as well. So I want to make sure that beloved communities, parents, students, everyone's in there. And then when we talk about equity, we're talking about access. Does everyone have access? Teachers, students, parents all have access to make this beloved community. The thing is that we are not at a beloved, we are, this is what our vision is, and that's what we want to make sure that we're talking about. I love the fact that DESE, the state, wants to do this, they want to be committed. And so I'm using some words that DESE has, but I love to emphasize that we're committed in developing knowledge, capacity, and skills necessary to make an equitable school system. So what is that, those outcomes down there? We're committed towards skills to create a climate of trust. Things that we need to do in the school system. And relational trust, that means it's not a work of one person, but the whole school, teachers, students, and staff. And I love, I'm going to concentrate that relationship is the key part. If it's not about relationship, not about people, it's not going to work. So we need to have that in there. So that's what I want. I love this little scene right here. Rose, I don't know if you can see, this is your area where teachers are sitting down with administrators and trying to discuss a project that we're doing. I love that. I want to see more of that. And so I think that's the equitable work we're doing. The problem I'm always having is, and I use this is my favorite thing. I went to school to classes to try to discuss what's the difference between equity and equity and equality. And I use this because I remember this is a past book, and we read the Giving Tree. I love that aspect here. And I asked the kids, what's the difference between equality and equity? And they kind of get it, the two end states here, but that one is, if you give everyone the same thing and there are different needs, some people are not gonna get it. And equity is not taken away from some students, it's making sure that every kid gets what he needs, or every teacher gets what he needs. But so, I think this little symbol talks about that aspect there. But let me I won't show this to the kids, but this is what I would, for you to make sure that you get a full picture of this. I like this picture here, like right here, if you look at the first kid getting an apple, he gets an apple and another kid does not get an apple. History tells us that there was a point that there wasn't inequity, inequalities. There were actually some students that were not getting the same as others. And I think it's very clear in our history. We can go back, you said old man, 60 years, and you can see that you can see that there were laws that promoted inequality. And thank goodness that we're not there yet. We're not there, but that was our history. And you can see that the whole society was bent towards one culture and one situation. So that culture, that tree that's being bent is showing that. What I like here is the next part, which is equality. I use this in my MLK breakfast, and I said, you know what? When we take the laws that we basically make sure that everyone's equal, MLK said in 1968, even after the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Acts to try and make sure everyone's equal, there was still inequity because inequality comes from the heart, comes from attitudes. And we still saw schools and systems that show that even if everyone has the same, there's some kids that don't have. And we're talking about not just racial, we're talking the gamut of the situation. So marginalized students, I want to make sure that's marginalized students, but I put MLK because that was a key year. People going, hey, you got all these laws, everything looks simple, right? Should we get to your dream? And I love the aspect here. Why do we have everyone have the same thing? Why don't the kids have? And I love this, the last one, justice, where you see everyone having the same, and people are always going, hey, why aren't we there? Why aren't black kids and white kids hanging around playing together? And the work is here. This, the lower down over bottom, this is the work. The work is, before you can go to Martin Luther King's dream, you have to understand that there's work to be done to make sure kids are getting what they need, teachers are getting what they need, the community gets what they need to provide. And so this is network work. Can we look at our school system and make sure that we are digging deep and getting what they need without, here's the hard part, without this contentiousness. Like, just because one kid gets something, does that mean everyone else is getting less than? I hope not. I hope that the point is, we're making sure that we understand what everyone needs and we're giving them. And that's the actual work. And that's the hard thing. That is a very hard scenario. I think a lot of people have seen already my time here, that when you mention the word equity, there's concepts that come up and they're like, they have this unbelievable idea of what we're trying to destroy schools. But what we're trying to do is we want to make sure every kid is thriving and is doing well. So that's what we have here. So and there's the dream. The last part was a dream. That's the extent of my computer skill, a little flashcard. All right, so the work for me is, the journey started for me last year. I love to be here. We started off with a vision. What's our vision? Our vision is that Falmouth becomes a beloved community. I love that. And what I said in the past is that the biggest problem with that vision is, are there people that are not experiencing it? And are there people that are experiencing it but don't see those other people? And I call that, and a lot of people call that implicit bias. There's some people that just, say, Falmouth is a beloved community. What are you talking about? I lived here for generations. And then if you talk to some other people, marginalized people, they say, well, there isn't. And there is a bias, there's an implicit bias that you don't see. And I love the word implicit because it tells you, listen, you're good, but you just don't understand. You just don't see. And it's something that you can't see unless you are intentional in that work. And so we want to make sure that we understand the awareness that we all have bias. I have my bias. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to grow and make sure I see others. We have to define the work, which is respecting that mission statement we talked about. We have to rely on relationship. I was talking to a coworker and saying, I would love to expand all my work to so many different people so that at a certain point, you don't need me. Everyone's doing the work, you get rid of me, that's okay, because everyone's doing the work. That's my goal. I would love that to happen. And the only way that's gonna happen is we need systems of change. We need to actually have things here in the school that are helping us to grow. And I'm gonna talk about two different things that I'm dealing with, and then I'll stop. I'm gonna jump down to relationship trust. The relationship trust is something that I'm gonna have a hard time with, not hard time with, but this is a barrier that I have. And basically, when we talk about equity, do we have a system where we can talk about some of our blind spots, some of those implicit bias that we can say, oh, I do have that, and I'm growing and I'm moving forward? Or do we say, I don't have that, I don't have that. I don't have that, Doug, you can't tell me this. And there's this relationship trust that when we come together and we talk about things in a manner that we can grow, not have these barriers, and then we're basically stopping that. So that's my stuff. And then bravery is a huge stuff. When we talk about race, my goodness, we talk about gender, my goodness, we talk about any of these things, we need to have bravery because we're not trying, our biggest thing is that we're trying to love our kids. I'm gonna say that, all we're trying to do is love our kids. So I have two systems I'm gonna talk about. There's a lot that I do in equity. There's a lot that we are doing, the school is doing in equity, but I wanna just focus on two things. I think my two main jobs I wanna do is this. I wanna have outside lens to be aware of the problems, or not aware of the problems, but aware of where we're at in equity. Where are we at in equity? So we, since November, we're in connection, we're partnering with this company called MAC, Mid-Atlantic Equity Consortium. And their goal is to look at our schools, see where we're at this point in time, and kind of give direction. Hey, these are the data we're seeing, and we think that you need to go here. Or we think you're doing excellent here, but you probably should consider this. And we want to have time where we're getting together and figuring out. So I love this outside lens to basically figure out what we're doing. If you want another equity discussion right here, I love this little equity audit situation. Services like education, we all provide shoes, this analogy. So services like education, we're all providing shoes. Equality is everyone gets shoes. Everyone's getting this shoes. Equity is everyone gets the shoes that fit. That is the work. Do we have education? Do we have a system where everyone is fitting? And then audit is basically determining who is everyone. Sometimes we do the average, we do the whole, we're forgetting some people, but audit goes, who is everyone? And what constitutes shoes? And creating a decision-making process that fits, is defined, and evaluate. We're always reflecting, we're always going back. Is this working? Is it not working? And when we're talking about, we want a world-class learning experience, this is what we're looking at. We're always evaluating, always checking out. We're always finding out the evidence. Where am I in this situation? Where are we? Sorry, I can't push that. By October, we decided what company we're to use. We found out MAC is it, so that was October. January, we had people from MAC coming in there, we're goal setting decision on there. They're in Maryland. There are companies in Maryland, but they're people from all over the East Coast. In February, we started creating an audit tool that we're gonna be using with teachers. In March, we are building consensus teams, so there's gonna be teams from every school that are gonna check out and look at individual schools. There was a agreement that was being created as of this month, and that's where we're at. So where we're headed is we want to start with surveys. We want to start with climate surveys with parents, with students, and students that are 4th and up. So student surveys as well as with teachers. We want to have a climate survey, see how we're at with what we're doing, and that's gonna be sent out by the end of the year. We want to have school committee members to be part of that climate survey, so we want to make sure that we have your lenses as well. We want to make sure that this company goes and looks at the school system's data and analyzes data from attendance or academic data, and they can see what's going on there. And then at the end of beginning of next year, we're gonna have these teams from every school that are gonna just really try to have discussion to figure out where are we at with each school. And from there, you'll have data, the MAC will have data, and they will present to you. We're hoping for November, December, saying this is where we're at. And it's not an evaluation, it's like, where are we now? Where's Falmouth, and where do we need to go? And then we'll start planning on where we should go after that. So hurdles I'm having, it's a learning curve. This year, it's just talking to principals, talking to teachers, talking to administrators and saying, what is equity? And honestly, what is equity? And that's what I'm here to talk to you right now about equities. We have a lot of scheduling situation going on. The really big thing about this firm is that they're so flexible. We like them about that, but because they're so flexible, that means any kind of change we have, it takes more time to do some stuff, so that was hard. The building consensus team, and this is gonna be my motto, is this is a marathon, not a sprint. And I wanted to get this thing all done like last year, seriously, I wanted, but it's time. This is where we're not a destination, we're not gonna be like, oh, we finally made it. No, this is something that we committed to it, and so we wanna make sure that we'll continue to do that. So the audit, I think the audit becomes my first and my biggest task that I have. The second biggest task I have is the equity teams. So equity teams are every school and in this building will have a team that, remember, we don't know what we don't know because we haven't implicit bias. So these equity teams are going to be here and they're going to look at where the building they're at and the people, the students, whoever they're at, and start to analyze and research and just have those hard discussions. And their task is, can we institutionalize this equity work? Again, I'm out, guess what? There's all the teachers and students, they're gonna be doing the work. And I love that aspect, that is relationship. So they're gonna look for blind spots, they're gonna raise people's voices. And the voices that are people that are marginalized and not heard, I wanna make sure we're hearing those voices. We wanna have positive, strong relationship. When we're dealing with this, I wanna look at the assets of this. You know, why are we doing this? We're doing it for the best of the kids, best for the school. We say world-class learning environment, this is the best. This is what we wanna do. We're analyzing, we're reflecting, we're digging deep. So that's what I wanna do, improve communication and implement equitable solutions. What is best for all our kids? Is there a kid not doing well? Is a student not doing well? Are there teachers not fully thriving? What can we do? And it's not me coming down to every school and saying, this is what we're gonna do. It's teachers getting together and saying, hey, listen, this is what we need to do. And that's the scheme that we're doing. So what have we done? As of September, we put goals. We unveiled a framework on how it's gonna run the whole system. We create teams, each school, I have a list of every member of who's in that equity team. I met with faculty meetings, I've met with teams and did some training. In the future, next steps, I'm planning to have a summer training with equity teams, as well as all teachers that wanna learn about equity. We're dealing with playlists, like things that work. I love if one school in T-Ticket has said, this is how we made our school a more equitable place, and we use this system, is that gonna be, is there a document, and that's a playlist, is there a document that someone from North can say, oh, you use this, fantastic. We want those playlists that we're sharing our successes. And then we're continuing reevaluating the work. So some hurdles, this is brand new. This is, you know, when you say, hey, you're an equity team, they're like, what's that? What am I gonna do? Well, we're starting to teach them what they're gonna do. And so it's a brand new thing. We have new training. We have the biggest thing is implicit bias. Do we understand that there's things that I do not know? And do I need to grow? That's learning. Again, time and marathon. This is a marathon, not a sprint. That's for me, by the way. That's not for you. I have to always remember, we gotta go slow. We gotta bring people along. So that's what I'm dealing there. So everything else is, I don't have time. I don't want to spend time here, but I just want to let you know that there's other areas. There is professional development. This is a system I want. And what problems I'm creating, multiple classes, courses, so that teachers and staff knows how to do equitable work. There's the forums. We have beloved forums. We've had 2. The next one is in June 15th, and we're having parents understanding. We feel like equitable training has to be done in not only with teachers, but parents. You know, what do they bring to the table? So we have that aspect, and those have been fantastic. We've got, we're trying to present a new sister school system. So we're connecting with a school in Cape Verde and seeing like a international kind of connection and with language. And so that's been going on. So I've had the great experience meeting up with educators in Cape Verde and seeing the results and getting kids excited. So that's also a new system. Juneteenth as a system, there's a new holiday, the 3rd year doing it, but I feel like that system is restoration. Juneteenth has a big restorative kind of piece, and I want to push that. Why do we celebrate Juneteenth today? And we tell kids why. I think there's still, we need to have a culture that restores, and so that becomes a huge thing. Restorative practices, discipline. You know, how do we discipline that kids learn, that kids understand, that kids are not separated or segregated, but kids are understanding the consequences, understanding what has to happen. So restorative practices is discipline as a learning tool, and we hope, and all the assistant principals are working on that. So that's in there. There are so many things, and this is a long list of other initiatives. But what I'm going to show you the breadth of this is that equity is in all areas of education. We are looking, we look at the whole, but in equity, we're saying, okay, knowing the whole, are there parts, are there segments, are there loose parts that we have to come alongside? And do we have a system that identifies and deals with that? I just highlighted 2 main ones, and it's the outside lens of the audit and inside lens, which is our equity team. I love another opportunity to go through the other stuff. I think those 2 are important, but just also show you that that there's other areas that I'm dealing with. And again, equity journey, it's a journey. We need to make sure we know the vision. We need to make sure they're aware of some of these barriers that we have. We need to understand what is the work. And this is ongoing, that work, you know, what is that work? This is a long-term, it's always continue, and it deals with relationships. We are dealing with people. People need to be part of it, not one guy, not from the administrator, but down bus drivers, lunch, TAs, students that no one ever, you know, the quiet student, you don't hear all the time. We need to make sure you have those relationships. We need system of change. And sometimes when we love some things, but we have to give it up because we want to make sure students and teachers are heard, and humanity over comfort is huge, and be brave on that. So that's my, this is where I'm at in the equitable journey that we have. And you see what I'm doing, but I'm just showing you there's a lot more and I hope to continue doing this process. So questions, I went through a lot, sorry.
Leah, hi. Thank you for that presentation. I have two questions. I saw on the slide there was an MOU,
Oh, yes.
and I'm not sure what that's for. Could you explain that?
So, so this is a firm and the MAC is a firm, right? And what they do is they have an agreement with the school. And so we've been talking about what do they need from us and what do we need from them? Is that right? Yeah. So it's basically they have a document where they're gonna say, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and you have to do X, Y, and Z, and that'll be coming in. Now, notice is that they're gonna show us exactly what we need to do and what they're gonna do, and they're gonna have price range. What's been awesome about this, I think it said before in November, that this is gonna be done by a grant from the federal government, the Department of Education, that they're gonna cover that, but that has all the costs of what they're doing, and we go from there.
Okay, so just to clarify, so they're gonna say how much that costs, but we don't have to pay.
Because of grant.
Okay, so we're signing an MOU for zero money. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanna make sure there wasn't money attached to it, because we talked about it not costing.
Yes.
Okay, and then my second question is, who is on the equity team?
Oh my goodness, who is on the equity? It is like 1 billion people. So wait a minute.
I'm wondering, who
So
are the stakeholders, like what's the diversity within those?
So the equity team right here, and I'm hitting this on right here. What we have is depending on, can you see that? We have principals, assistant principals, adjustment counselors, we have a gamut of different people, but if you can look, you see, why don't I have the whole thing? I gotta make it smaller. Yeah, so depending on which school you're in, so here's a school, Lawrence School, you have a literacy rep, you have principals, you've got guidance head, you have office, DI, group members, so you have different people on here. And so we want to make it diverse, but have it be, a nice breadth of different people. And we're talking principals and saying, who's on here, what's gonna be on here, and we're not forcing anyone either, so these are volunteers that are saying, we wanna be doing the work and doing stuff like that, so that's what's going on. We have, Rob, you're in one.
Yes.
Rob's in one, so she can tell you some stuff, so they're people that are gonna say, we wanna do the work and we're coming along, but we're always looking for more people to help us do this. But this is a extensive list from from every school that's doing that, okay?
Can I just ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
So when these were created, was there, I know MAEC was supporting you in this, so was there like a makeup that they said that would be a good, snapshot of who the school is, and then you went by that, or how was this done?
So, Mac, there was 2 different groups, by the way, there's a internal group that I created, that's all me. Then now Mac is going to be asking us for a discussion group for each school, and they'll be picked up, and they want to make sure that there is only one administrator and only one general ed teacher and only one, so they really want to even make it more diverse, and so we've talked to administrators, say, all right, who's your one? So I have another group that shows that difference in there. So that I have our own, but then the MAC group is going to be even more diverse in that aspect.
Okay, so they're 2 separate.
2 separate.
The equity groups are not connected to MAC.
Unless there might be some principals that like to keep them the same, so Ms. Moran has hers, make sure it is the same. So she made sure that you have bus drivers, Moran? Yeah, bus driver,
That's what I was wondering, like teaching assistants
Yep.
and.
Yep.
Okay.
So hers is a good example of being very broad, where others, they wanted to have that flexibility. And that's another aspect of the equity work. I work with different cultures. So what we do in elementary is gonna be totally different from what we do in high school, is they have their own culture, and I wanna work with them to make sure the work is going on. I'm not gonna say this is the way it's gonna be done, but I love talking to Rose and saying, how do you want to do this? And I love talking to Alan and say, okay, what are we gonna do here? And work with them. Okay?
Well, then that's nice for the outside consultant to say, this is the makeup, so that can help guide everyone.
Yeah.
As to how to move forward. Okay.
Fantastic.
I'm wondering about, maybe it's part of the MOU or not, but I can't remember whether or not after all of the data is collected, whether MAEC, whatever it is.
Yeah, Mac.
Whether they help with the next piece,
Yes.
like, do they help set priorities for, okay, we'll do this first?
Yeah.
They did.
So again, the awareness is just the first part. So we need to be aware that there are issues that we don't see. So they're gonna be looking at the data, it's not our opinion, but they're gonna look at the data and say, is there a problem? So they're gonna have about November, they will present to you, they'll come here to present to you and they'll have, I think we're gonna have a platform, an online platform that can show where we are right here now. And then really, this is when I really need the school committee to say, okay, here's where we're at. What do we need to do to solve it? And they'll have some recommendation, and then it's kind of like, let's talk about this. There's a issue here. There might be some kids are not thriving over here. So what can we do? And they'll make some recommendation, and then we have to decide how we're gonna handle that. And by the way, we're only dealing with a portion of their audit. Only like 3 domains of their audit, there's out of 8, so we can continue the process to hit all aspects of school.
Great. I just want to make sure that the agreement we have in place with them will use their expertise in figuring out what comes next.
Yes.
Because that's what they do.
Yeah.
So I don't want to finish with the process, the audit piece and not feel like we have clear next steps coming from somebody outside, because that's what they do.
They will come in, but we will
Yeah.
need everyone here to come in and
Awesome. Thanks.
In your, discussion on how they're gonna initiate, procedures, you said they will say, is there a problem? And the last time you presented this, same themed presentation, I said, are they also gonna ask, what are you doing right?
yes,
Because that wasn't mentioned, I mean, so I just want to make sure that we also put that right up top too, what are we doing right?
and that's one of my issues with me, when I'm always growing, sometimes my default to go negative, Terry, and I gotta make sure that I'm always looking at this is an asset base. There are things that we are doing awesome, and you can have an excellent school, the best school ever. There will be some kids or some teachers that are not thriving, and we're just looking at that. So best school in the Cape, best school in the country, yet maybe if you want that world-class education, we want to make sure every kid is going there. But I can remember acid base, forget about that negative, no, we are not evaluating, we're making sure we're taking care of our kids in school.
I mean, I would like to present to them, I think we've done a lot of good work this year. With the connections we made with different groups in the community, such as the Guardians, such as the Wampanoags. We've made great connections with them. And I think you ought to say, here, start with this. And then look for problems.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it's a different slant on it.
We want to make sure, you know what, here's the best thing about Falmouth. You're doing the work, you're committed to the work. You've got it in there, it's before I even got there, you're committed to work. So now we have to have a system that comes in and actually follows through, so you're ahead of a lot of schools, not many schools in the Cape is doing this, and so here we are, we're doing the work. And I hope we can continue, so I appreciate that.
Great. Any last questions from school committee?
Last question.
Thank you, Henry. Oh, it's great. Thank you. Next on the agenda is to act on the 2024-2025 school calendar. And we saw the calendar, we reviewed the calendar during our last meeting. Dr. Dorr, you want to add anything to it?
No, just a reminder that FEA has looked at the calendar, and this is the calendar that they want to move forward for the school committee. There were no suggested changes from the school committee members or again from anyone else. So this is exactly what you saw at the last meeting. So I would like to recommend this to be the 24-25.
Great. And is there a motion to act on the 2024-2025 school calendars? And a second?
Second.
Okay, questions or comments?
Yes,
Leah?
I have a question. On the 27th, it looks like it's a half day and we've always had a full day, for Thanksgiving. Can you explain why the change?
Sure. And so we had one of two things. We could have, if you look at December, we would have either had to work on the 23rd or make it a half day of December, or, and this was the discussion with FEA, and they had taken a vote and they actually wanted to do the half day on November so that they weren't coming after a weekend and coming on the Monday. And so it equals exactly the same for the count the number of days. And I think that was a very reasonable ask. Certainly can understand that. So with that, this is the way I was presenting it.
Any other questions or comments?
I will have a comment. I think that that's completely reasonable, but as I think about parents and families that are kind of like on autopilot at that time, myself included, I think that there's gonna be a lot of assumptions that we just have today. That this will be the first time. I mean, I feel like when I was a kid, we had a half day on Tuesday. So I just want, I hope that we're very clear when the message goes out that it was in response so that we would have the full week at Christmas. Just because I really, I think about families traveling and I think about cutting into family time. I don't know, it just I'm almost. I'm saying for parents out there.
Okay, so the other choice, if you want to look at, we discussed with the union, if you look at June, then it would be, you would have to add. So right now, the June 19th is a holiday, and so we would be coming back on the 20th. And they did not prefer to do that. That was, I mean, we were trying to figure out when where to put it in. So this was really the calendar they had. I mean, there's nothing off.
Right, and I respect the fact that FBA has reviewed this calendar.
We're just gonna need to.
We'll just tell everyone.
Andrea, and just like a piece related to that is that this isn't next year's, it's the following year, but you have time to get that message.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
But that is why it's critical, because we do review these so early, so just making sure that there is that reminder, because the school committee is not gonna see it again.
Yeah, we
So
don't,
it won't be on our radar.
yeah.
Look for parents,
Yes.
I can imagine it in 2 years. What?
Oh, yeah, right. I think we.
You're gonna say.
Yes, I think circling back, you know, FBA is the calendar that they want to put forward, and again, it's 2024. And we'll have plenty of time to make sure all families know. So there's a motion and a second to approve the calendar. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think there'll be some very happy people that are watching.
Next, act on the $1,000 donation from the Falmouth Road Race. Lori.
Yes, so Falmouth Road Race once again is supporting us. The funds, this $1,000 will support field trips from Jane Baker's class at the high school.
Great. Is there a motion to
Make a
approve?
motion.
Okay, thank you, Mike. A second?
I'll second.
Melissa. Any other questions or comments? As always, thank you so much to the Falmouth Road Race for continuously supporting our schools. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Next, act on a $2,000 donation from the Lee Ann Mannillo Foundation, and Melissa, you have a letter
I
from the
do have a
foundation.
The Mannillos are dear friends of ours, and I've been asked to read the letter that was sent along with the very generous $2,000 donation from the Lee Ann Mannillo Foundation, and I'm gonna try really hard not to cry. Dear North Falmouth Elementary, it is with extreme gratitude that the Lee Ann Mannillo Foundation would like to donate $2,000 to North Falmouth Elementary. We would like the funds to be used for students that may be in need, whether it is for holiday help, extracurricular activities, spirit wear, yearbooks, or any other needs that may be asked by families of North Falmouth Elementary students. Nicholas and Van Mannillo are third grade students of North Falmouth Elementary. The Lee Ann Mannillo Foundation was formed after the unexpected and devastating loss of their biological mother, Lee, mere hours after the twins were born in May of 2014. North Falmouth Elementary has been an amazing school for the boys, and we want to be able to give back to the community we love so much. We thank all of the educators and staff of North Falmouth Elementary for their support and for the important roles they have served and continue to serve the boys and all of the students of North Falmouth Elementary. Sincerely, Sarah Swain, Rich Mannillo, on behalf of the Lee Ann Mannillo Foundation.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Is there a motion?
I'm gonna make that motion.
Yeah, I thought you was wanting. Terry's gonna second it. Any questions or comments? And again, just a huge thank you to the foundation for thinking of our kids at North Falmouth Elementary School. So all in favor of accepting the donation, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you again. Next, superintendent update, Lori.
Thank you. So tonight I'm gonna solely concentrate on the last two phasing forums that we've had. And I first want to thank the parents and the teachers that actually have come to the forums. They have been, I think, good discussions. We're learning from one another, and I think that's what collaboration is all about, and coming together so that we can make the changes as we're hearing. And making adjustments. I also want to thank the parents and teachers that are unable to attend the forums, but that have been emailing and giving the opportunity to be able to share information as well. So I'm going to talk about the topics from the forum, but I'm going to start with a modern teacher. And I apologize for those that were at the forum last night, may have to hear this again, but I do want to talk a little bit about modern teacher and my role. Modern teacher, not modern teacher, it was the National Council on Digital Convergence that I was a part of. It was a group of volunteer superintendents, assistant superintendents, curriculum directors, IT directors across the country. I did not grow up with tech. I know that surprises you. But I also was out of the classroom in administration before any tech was in the classroom, was brought into the classroom. So I had a learning curve, and I needed my own professional development. As tech was exploding in the world, the questions came up about how does tech actually fit into the classroom? And what we didn't want it to happen is it was there and we weren't using it in a way that enhances learning and supports learning. Modern teacher or the group that came together to have conversations was never about virtual learning, was never about increasing time on Chromebooks. It was time to really think about thoughtfully about how do we take this technology and what do we learn. There were several of the assistant superintendents in Delaware that we got together. We were all in the same boat. We were trying to lead a district and there was technology and we did not know what to do. And we wanted to do thoughtfully. So I was nominated to be on this committee. I learned, we came back, we studied, we read, we researched, we visited schools. And it was about strategies and it was about how do we, even when we began implementing technology in the classrooms, and teachers had to write proposals about getting iPads or laptops and honestly, even the smart boards at that time was kind of frightening. Like, what do you do with these things? And so I spent a lot of time observing, and when the teachers wrote, and it's really listening to teachers and about what teachers know best and can figure out what to do. I remember, you know, studying that, and it reminded me when Dr. Parkinson was at the first meeting when he was talking about, well, if you look at a flat, you know, if you're looking at a book, you're basically looking at a flat picture. But for him, if you were looking at a heart and you were learning about the heart, to have it digitally and actually be able to go in. And it reminded me about one of the first classrooms I went in. It was a science teacher in middle school that asked for iPads because she was teaching anatomy and she wanted to teach so that kids could actually see the system. And I thought that was kind of to go in and see the kids, not having to look at flat screen or flat, you know, curriculum books, textbooks, but to actually be able to, which they thought was very cool, the blood system and being able to go through and flow through and then flow through the heart, and how does all this work? And to me, that was what it enhanced the learning. The teacher still teaching the lesson, but there was a way to show and bring it to life for kids. And that's what has always stuck to me. So journeying forward, there has never been a plan to try to have technology take over. We have fabulous teachers here in Falmouth Public Schools that I admire very much, that are very creative and really allowing them the time and the space to figure out how do they not only enhance learning, but then there are students that need different technology tools to be able to access the curriculum, to make things equitable in the same way. And so so that was the journey. And there was a lot of professional development opportunities, a lot of learning. One of the things that we pride ourselves in Falmouth Public Schools that Dr. Tellier started a few years ago was teachers learning from teachers. And this was districts learning from districts. And so again, not once when you go into the professional development and you walk into classrooms, are you going in and you're seeing teachers in any of the schools that we have visited or in our own schools, that technology is the sole source in the classroom. So I just really wanted to explain that again. My role was volunteer on the National Council, and Modern Teachers supported that, and we also helped make those connections and those networks. And I'm going to turn over to Sonia at this point to continue to talk Modern Teacher, and then I'll come back to some of the other topics.
And I think just to build on the point about professional development, we historically in Falmouth had our technology advisory board. And we had an opportunity to reevaluate what we were doing with technology. And so our technology advisory board turned into our tech for learning and connecting the technology we were using to the learning, to the outcomes, as opposed to how many computer labs do we have? It's, you know, what computer-based classrooms might we have, for example, music technology where students were composing, and then we learned that we could put piano keyboards on them as opposed to typing keyboards, right? Graphic design. And then over time, things have continued to grow as our digital literacy and computer science standards have come out, as our standardized and benchmark assessments have gone onto computers. It used to be optional to do them on computers, now it's required. We need to make sure that our students have the skills to fare well. And creating that balance, and also, you know, there's members here who are part of our tech for learning and advising us in different tools. So trying to create that balanced view, and part of that too became an opportunity to connect with other districts on the Cape for a period of time. 10 of the districts of the 13 on the Cape were engaged, and part of that was a COVID response. Then the other part is thinking about the broader way of creating connections and being able to ask other people who are using different tools, different programs, how's it going for you? What does it look like? And it just became part of our network. There's no curriculum that you adopt. There's no requirement for certain technology or volume. It's just an opportunity to have that dialogue. And when we had the opportunity to go to the conference, the first day of the conference is a site visit. So you visit schools and you get to ask questions, you get to interact with the students or teachers, their school committees or school boards. The other part, when we invest into the conference, is the second day is workshops. And so we make sure that if we're attending, we also have an opportunity to share something that we're doing and get feedback. So make sure that we're presenting, not just attending. And I think that's something that when we think about the work we do, we have teachers who present at MassQ pretty regularly. We have teachers who present, recently we had, we were just talking about Jane and the donation for field trips, but Jane Baker and Lauren Kenny got to present at the National Art Educators Conference in New York City. So we do have a history of us sharing our work and engaging in a broader system of feedback, but when we come back to them, being able to personalize the work that we do, right, and connect that. So for us, it's been a professional development, professional learning opportunity, but it's built on the history and the work we were doing. But MassQ didn't offer us the same sort of coordinate. They keep exposing us to more. And we needed a way to help coordinate some of the decision making. We had looked at other opportunities, future ready schools. We took their self-assessment. We were marked as having done everything that they would guide us to do in terms of being future ready, like having Wi-Fi access points and having computers or computer labs. And so this offered us an opportunity to take our standards, take the professional learning, and then make informed decisions without someone telling us specifically what to do. So around the profession.
So, another topic,
Or may I ask a question? I listened to your award speech for becoming a change agent on the change agents at this conference. And during that award speech, we talked about the Tech for Learning Committee that had been retooled. These were your words, and you were gearing your work matching the drivers, quote unquote, of a modern teacher. So getting that award and guiding that tech team in that direction, to me, screams modern teacher. It doesn't scream collaboration with other districts. There's a history of sharing our work and giving workshops with other districts, but they don't take our logo and put it on their website and use us to advertise or to make sales for that thing. So I'm not sure that, I think modern teachers hear more than we know. If you look through the years, I've been wondering about things like the playlist, because the playlists were initiated at almost the same time that on the Modern Teacher Facebook page, they were advertising for how do you want to do this. You can find information from us. So we pay them a fee, but I don't think it's right that they use our logo. If you go to their website, there's maybe 20 logos or so of schools, and there is the Falmouth Circle logo on their website. So that's, I mean, maybe they're a good company, maybe they have good things to offer, and that's fine, but I just think you don't put enough energy in using other agencies. Massachusetts is one of the leading states in the country for education. So we have we have great colleges. We must have professors at those colleges that are here in our state and not in Colorado. So I just think there is more to modern teacher in this district than we have seen over the years. We haven't gotten reports about it. We maybe should have asked more questions along the way, but I feel it is very prominent in our district. And I think we need to all sit down and decide, do we really only want, or do we want that much of modern teacher in our district? So that's just a comment I had to say.
Thank you, Terry.
If I could add to Terry's point, I also have an issue with the logo and our family's children on a for-profit site. And I have I've expressed my concern with administration about this. And if Terry's looked recently, it has not been done. So I'm very concerned about that. And then if I can ask another question, you said 10 of the 13 schools on the Cape did something like this during COVID. How many of the 13 are still doing that?
I don't know how many of the 13 of the other 9 districts continued on. I know some of them brought in workshops after that. But I don't know how many of them have continued since then.
I just think that during the COVID year, we were all kind of in a weird place, and 10 out of 13, that's great. But if now it's only 2 out of 13, where are the other 8? I don't know what the numbers are, but, and then, my last question about modern teacher, and professional development, and you can go to either one of you. Our teachers in this district, have they had PD days based on these playlists, as Harry said, and does every teacher, are they required to have a playlist for their class where students can click a button at home using their Chromebooks? Because, you know, this is kind of what we heard earlier, and now this. I just want clarification that no teachers are required to have playlists, right? Or are they?
So we introduced playlists into
Okay.
professional development in the summer of 20.
Okay,
Yes, it's a strategy Modern Teacher advertises. It's also a strategy that other educational institutions or professional development agencies also promote. And we did continue it beyond that initial 2021 year, in part as a place where students could go back and access information, either if they had been out, if they wanted to repeat something. And in some cases, it's turned into learning plans. And in some cases, they've kind of stayed there as a repository of information. I know that several of our schools, our principals use them to shape their weekly communications. So it's just become a way of collecting information. Some people have renamed it like the most important document, and it's got links to other things that are important to their school communities. And even Massachusetts Department of Education uses playlists and landing pages to communicate information out to us as educators.
that's a quick follow-up question, like, again, COVID year. We were all there, we all know what we had to do, but currently every teacher in Falmouth Public Schools is required to have a class playlist?
That has been
Current.
over the past few years, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to,
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that we all. This was something that was brought in during COVID, and then years later. Teachers are still required to do this. But Dr. Dorr, you just said that teachers are the greatest asset. We want them to teach the way they want to teach. So why are we requiring teachers to do something like not understand? I'm just confused as to, you know, but anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
So I guess my concern is that for whatever reason, we have latched onto this, to the phrase that by using modern teacher, we are somehow going down this like technology slope. And what I think we need to do is step back and say, we want our teachers to have the best professional development to utilize technology. That's what we want. And if our district has identified that modern teacher or whatever it might be is able to provide that, then I want that for our district. I don't care if it's modern teacher. I don't care if it's the one that Massachusetts does. I don't care what it's called. What I want is for our teachers to have access to professional development that is going to help them integrate technology in useful ways to meet the needs of all of our kids. And I'm very concerned that for whatever reason, the concept of doing that is somehow being skewed, and that we're not able to just identify, okay, this is what we're doing, we're providing PD. I don't understand why the name modern teacher is somehow being conflated to mean all these things that it is not. It is professional development that is enabling our teachers to be better teachers. They already know what they're doing. They know which things they can take and leave and use and whatever. All we're doing is giving the tools to do that.
So why are we guiding our technology, Tech for Learning Committee to use the drivers of modern teacher? Why was that the definition I heard from Sonia when she got her award as a change agent? A change agent is a person who's tasked with bringing all these different elements of the district on board, technology, curriculum. And I'm not saying modern teacher is bad. I'm not saying it's a bad company, but I just think that it overpowers other possibilities that we could be, like I just said, when I was talking with,
I think that
let me finish that. I said, there are a lot of things in Massachusetts to look at. I mean, I don't think we do. I don't know that we look at the guidance from the DESE enough. in directions, I just think from the different places that I saw that infiltrated into our district. And the fact that they are using our logo as, you know, this is a modern teacher school. We need to have I think we need to have a committee where we sit down, the community, the superintendent, the school committee, and decide what is our vision. I mean, I think we need to do that. Okay.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah. So, I mean, really, from my perspective, this is just about us just not knowing this. Like, I feel like if we had understood this information from the beginning around how modern teacher was being used during COVID, I'm in a district where I did use modern teacher. I was one of the districts who was using it. And honestly, like, I mean, I think for me, it's making a slide that then has all of my links on it for teachers to access. So I don't think of it as modern teacher when I do it now, but I think that we have associated it in this context with modern teacher. But I do think that it is because there was a lack of communication around this, and now we're hearing about it years later, that this has been going on for so long. And I think that's where the crux of the issue is for me, is just this lack of transparency around this. And not saying that it was intentionally that something was hidden, but I just feel like I wish we had gotten more information that this was a tool that we found really helpful during COVID. So we're going to continue using it. And this is what it is. It's making a Google slide and putting information on there and have teachers tell us about it and explain how they use it and why they think it's great. But instead we hear it's a mandate and we're not understanding where this came from. So that's the way I feel about it, is around communication.
Thank you, Melissa. So I'm gonna be quick. I'm concerned about, like Leah, I feel like we were blindsided with just the lack of communication and the transparency. I think that we were all kind of in a fog during, trying to educate ourselves during COVID. I think that there was, I think it started out with good intentions, and I think it probably continues with good intentions. I hope. I'm trying to look for the good, but I just wish that we had more transparency as to, like, why did I find out from parents? I didn't find out from this table. That being said, when I did click on the link, I found it breathtakingly away, not in a good way, that our logo truly felt like an advertisement for something that I didn't even know what we were doing. I had no idea. I always thought that, like, our Falmouth logo stays here, and it might go on, like, you know, a backpack or a t-shirt or something that we put out that, like, a Clipper wears, but not, I didn't know that it was out there on a national level. And then the more I looked into the websites and I found photos of kids, I immediately looked for my own too and thought, I don't know that I consented to, when I said, yes, please use photos for my kids, I thought it was gonna stay here. I thought it was gonna stay in Falmouth, and I don't know, maybe you got consent from other parents. I don't know. I honestly haven't, I haven't asked around, but I also, am like Terry, wondering what other platforms are offered other than Modern Teacher. It feels like we're hanging our hat on something that, oh, Leah makes it sound great, Kelly makes it sound great, but the parents leading up to it feel like, why do we have no idea what this is going on? Why we feel very blindsided, and just, I feel like the last couple of weeks with some meetings with parents that we've had, the family forums that Dr. Dur has talked about, there's been some keywords highlighted, like transparency and communication, and I'd like to think of myself as an involved parent in the district, and I didn't know about things, and I personally don't like that feeling. And I'm also with Terry that the school committee needs to have a plan moving forward. I thought that we had a policy in place that protected our logo. Maybe we need to, and forgive me that I forget what policy it is. It's like IK.
Okay.
Thank you. I know it's in the I's.
MH something.
I thought, okay, I thought it was nice. Anyway, maybe we just need to peek at that again. I'm not sure. I appreciate this dialogue. Dr. Jar, I really appreciate you putting yourself out there last night, putting yourself out there again today, explaining everything, your relationship, your history with Modern Teacher. Sonia, Dr. Tellier, I appreciate you, clarifying how we started there with, other 1 of 10 schools across the Cape and the Islands and how we're still here today. I just, I want to continue with more dialogue. I want to make sure that every parent's questions are answered. I also want to support the teachers too, and I hope that they have an opportunity to have, not just to look at Modern Teacher as a platform to help them, but are there other platforms that they can look at from DESE, from the state, et cetera?
Thank you, Andrea. So I guess I've been sitting here trying to go like, why is some of this stuff not a surprise to me when other people feel like this, they had no information about it? So I've been racking my brain about what was the process, and I was on the Tech for Learning a few years ago. I haven't been on it recently. And it's a big group of teachers, their community members, school committee members. And we did a whole variety of things, even just looking at and trying to build consensus on what we see the modern classroom looking like, right? How are we making sure that we're equipping our kids for a future that we can't even really predict, right? We did a lot of philosophical discussions, had a lot of input. Like I said, I think there was a sort of a revolving group, but I would say we probably had 25 people in the room each time, and new people would join into that. And at the end of my work there on that committee, one of the things we were doing was looking at different types of platforms to be able to put all of this information to enable teachers and students and families to be able to access and have more communication and understanding of what their students are doing, what they aren't doing, what do they need to catch up on. And so there were several different platforms that I remember we were on this screen in this room, communicating with people in other states that run these platforms, having a chance for everybody to ask their questions, to evaluate it. And so there was a lot of feedback, and that was right before COVID. And when COVID hit, I remember being on a webinar with the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. And one of the things people were discussing is how are we going to get through what we're dealing with virtual learning. And having a platform like Schoology was something that schools across the state were scrambling to do. And I still remember sitting on that webinar, just going, we already have that, right? And thinking, wow, Falmouth is already, like, we're ahead. And I was really proud of that. So, you know, it's really easy to kind of look at things and think that there's something potentially nefarious going on. And honestly, I'm not sure that communication was done particularly well, especially during that timing of that transition. And then even when we were done with the pandemic, I think it's easy to forget how much of a burden there was for our students, our staff, our administrators, our families. I still don't think we've completely shed all of those burdens. We're still carrying that around. And I would not be surprised to hear that somewhere along the line, the ball was dropped and there was pieces of it that weren't communicated. But from my experience in being part of any of those discussions, there's no way that I think that there was ever anything nefarious going on or anything purposely being hidden. Could we do it better? I'll bet. It's really easy to look at things in hindsight and say, here's what you did wrong, here's what you did wrong, without realizing everything else that was going on and all the other fires that were being put out. So I do still think that we should continue
to improve and make it better and communicate where we need to. If we need to deal with logos because we're not following policy, absolutely. We can make it better, perfect it, make the changes and adjustments as we need to. But I don't think it's, you know, to look at everything and just say, this is completely wrong. We need to throw it all out and start from scratch to our students' detriment.
We're gonna turn it back to Terry and then back to Dr. Jordan. So Terry.
Okay, I will not get in an argument with a fellow school committee member, but I really don't like that you inferred that I was implying nefariousness, if that's a noun, I don't know. I'm gonna say to you that when I listened to the award speech, you can listen to it and see if I'm making this up. It's online. According to Sonia, one of her greatest achievements at receiving this change award was retooling the Tech for Learning Committee, or the Teach for whatever it was before, retooling it and guiding it to the drivers of modern teacher. So that to me does not say looking at different platforms. If the person got an award and this is what she singled out as one of her accomplishments, so I question that there are still other platforms being looked at. But I'm going to say again, these are things that we weren't aware of, a lot of things that come to the front, and I really hope we can sit down, parents, the school committee, the administration, and see what is our vision. What are we getting for the money that we spend partly, and what is our vision?
Thank you, Terry. Back to you, Dr. Dora.
Thank you. And just to wrap up on that, I just want to, Modern Teacher is not a platform for students. It's not a platform for teachers. I just want to say that it's a professional development. The platform that Andrea was referring to was Schoology, and we looked at many platforms as a learning management system. And so it's two different things. I just wanted to clarify that. I will say that
Could you just explain what Modern Teacher does?
And what it costs.
Well, no, just what it does, just so people get a picture, because a platform is like Schoology. Modern Teacher gives you the tools to be able to make these playlists, right?
can you help me on that?
So-
I don't know that they give you the tool. I don't
The
know.
professional learning can be approached either by having people log in and complete online modules, which is how we did it in summer of 20. There are modules for creating playlists, but there are also other ones for how to build a lesson that, you know,
So it's like an online library, is that
Yeah.
essentially your one is with templates? Is that, I'm trying
it kind of it becomes on demand, right, for people who want to be able to go in and use it. So that we selected 3 specific modules for the summer of 20 to help us get up and running. And that Cape wide, everybody picked the same 3 modules. But there are other, you know, there's like another 12 in there that people can have open access to. Some people have gone through them, some people haven't, and that's up to them.
So just to pause you there, modules, are you speaking of templates? Because I think the language matters in
On
understanding.
classes, so there's groups of readings and there might be groups of videos. And then you can watch the videos, go through the readings, and then you can create your lesson as a result.
And you can create templates.
You
There are
can create
templates
templates,
there
yeah,
that you
too.
can then use to put your playlists.
Yeah,
But it's really just PD. It's professional development, how to do that, but they do give you those templates, so you can walk, so it's hands-on.
Yeah.
So as you're going through it, you can try it out, you know, it's fun, you put your little widget things in, but they walk you through how to do it, so it's professional development, but the ultimate goal is that you would have something that would be a platform for students to go to, right?
in that particular one, yeah, you
In
can
the
create a
playlist.
playlist that students can go to.
I think that's where we're confused, because like, it's like not understanding what these things are makes it very hard, because we can throw around this term modern teacher and really not understand what this is. And that this is a professional development system that provides some templates but it is the driving force around playlists. I mean, I feel like that is how teachers learned about playlists. And it gave them the opportunity to start playing around with it, get some sense around how to do it, to be able to have those playlists be pretty solidified during COVID, right? And now Falmouth has continued that as that's a mandate for teachers to have those playlists.
You set that expectation.
Okay.
But it's a lot of things to modern teachers.
Right, but that's the one thing that you've held on to with modern teachers, is the playlist.
Just about this module, if I may, I'm in my doctorate school now, I'm a class away, we use module all the time for our readings and our communication with peers, colleagues, videos, etc. Is this appropriate for first or second grade students to have these playlists and digital stuff? Like, that's my concern, is that, I think someone said earlier, high school, we want to get to that level. And I was in school when the digital went from analog to digital and computers in every classroom. And we had a computer class every day. And then we went to math class and we learned math. And with English, I learned English. We weren't using computers for every classroom, which is, I think, many of these parents' concerns and parents at home, is that it appears that every single, class in every grade has these digital modules that are better used for high school, college, and above students, not elementary school students. And I will say this, when COVID first started happening, when COVID first happened, and I was at home with my daughter's own modules, first and third grade, I had a difficult time finding where to go. So unleashing this module playlist system on teachers, students, and their parents, without any kind of, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're going to approach this, if you need help. The first week of COVID, I had teachers, elementary school teachers, asking me what to do. I have some technical knowledge. That's not right, and that's just my opinion, but.
Thank you. Okay, let's get back to.
You want, I think she wanted to make them come after we.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
The modules are available for teachers, but that's not to create modules for students. And the playlist is a single document, which could take you to a video and Khan Academy, for example. I think that was pretty common during COVID. We saw a lot of Southcom, but it could also take you to something to read, or it could just have directions for playing a card game that reinforces a certain amount of skill. The modules were available to teachers, but that wasn't necessarily to create modules for students. I just want to create. Yes.
Are you?
It's a teaching plan, right?
Yes, I actually look at it as it's like an old school folder, right? Of all of those, but it's up to date.
If you don't mind, we could just, because we're hearing you and you're picking up on the microphone, we just want to make sure everyone at home can hear what they're saying here.
So I was just saying that it's like a old school folder of all of these papers that you would come home with. Instead, you can go on to your whatever your landing page and you can click onto those things. So, I mean, I love it. I mean, I use this platform for many reasons, because it puts it there and it keeps it live and I can change things and things like that. But I think there's just this disconnect of understanding what this modern teacher thing was around, and that it's for teachers, it's not for kids, but the idea was to make it more accessible for parents too. And I think maybe that's where we might have lost track of how to do this well, is that I think that parents really should have been involved in that process of understanding how to access these playlists, how to look at the playlists, how to navigate them. Because honestly, they're amazing tools that we can use all the time. But because there was that disconnect and students were it was there on the screen, they were trying to navigate it, parents were trying to find things, and there wasn't that support because everyone was so stressed out. We're all trying to figure out what to do. But I think if we could have just taken a breath there and said, let's support parents on this, because they are the ones who are at home with the kids right now. I think we probably could have done this a little bit better.
Yeah.
So
I think a couple of things I think we can do moving forward as I'm listening to everything, and that is definitely, set up opportunities to review that, set up opportunities to see what an elementary playlist looks like versus an upper grade playlist, right? So we can have some idea. Communicate, thank you, Mr. Lake last night and today, and just saying that, and yes, we can always get better with communication, and groups like this actually gives us a, reminder to do it. I think as we keep moving forward and teachers are using them, we do get away and we forget. It's almost like it's just what we're doing. And we forget to kind of maybe go back and revisit. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do with communication and sharing moving forward around it. So shifting, and I know I'm gonna go to the next one, screen time. And so I know that this is a concern, and I just want, again, I wish we had a solution to be able to have parents monitor the screen, because I truly trust our teachers in being able to balance their lessons and using no tech, some tech, need for additional tech at times, but to be able to balance that. And I think that if parents had that access, that you would feel more comfortable. And so, our IT director, Mike Falcone, has been searching and trying to figure out anything, even including and asking Google. I understand that on Apple, you can get that information. This is the Google sign in. We use Google in this district, and there's just no way. The time that I got the information, it was a back end, there's no report, but it was a back end way of pulling the information. And just to give an idea, because as the question started coming up, I too wanted to, well, how much, are we actually using? And is that right or is that not right? Like, there's really not a lot of research and guidance around screen time for educational purposes. There's a lot of information around screen time for social media, for videos, for gaming, for, TV screen time. There's a lot of that information, but not a lot. So, and then I turned to Dr. Parkinson. He's our, guiding consulting physician, and kind of talking through that. And so I do want parents to feel comfortable, and we need to find a solution. And we have said over and over, anybody knows of anything, we have checked out anything that's come our way. We have just been unable to figure that out. We have checked with other districts, and there's no district that is keeping track or knows how to keep track or has any solution for that as well, because that hasn't come up. So I do want that to be transparent. I just really want everyone to understand is that we don't have that transparency because it's just unavailable, but we won't stop looking. Mike Falcone is actually, I credit him all the time as being fantastic at research and problem solving. And so we're gonna keep at it. And so I know that that's a concern. I just wanted to recognize that. I know that we're kind of going over, but I do think last night we spent a great amount of time talking about the mastery-based learning and the grading, and I would like Sonia to talk a little bit about that, because I really felt like we got to a good place. There were some great comments afterwards about learning, and understanding more about it. And so I don't know if you can just kind of recap a little bit on that, and then I'll wrap up with it. So
I think one of the biggest parts is clarifying that it's not an elimination of a report card in the mastery-based processing grading. It's a shift in an articulated report card that matches the priority standards that are in the Clipper Learning Journals, and we've been able to get a little bit more clarity there on what they're going to look like. And I know that was part of the grade level conversations today, because we did that work with grade level leaders last week. But I think the biggest piece that came out of the conversation is sort of where the clash happened with some of the communication, because this year for educators and for professional development, it was sort of our year of trying to learn and get a baseline and set up some questions and start to figure things out. And as we were doing that, we had some teachers that were getting really excited and asking, can they start to trial things next year? So we weren't looking at getting beyond PD and actually getting to implementation for 2 years. And then we had some people who wanted to trial. And then our intent was never to not present or come here for your endorsement, but to kind of figure out what we wanted to preview for you and tell you we might be thinking about or shaping. Because we looked at several different strategies that we kind of blended to create at least the draft that we have now.
But it's sort of in that clash of really just kind of this year wanting to go through the PD, and then we started moving forward as we were building a frequently asked questions in the middle of the year, which then led to trying to document a timeline, which, you know, was happening end of January, beginning of February, and asking to be here to give a presentation to school committee, which was scheduled for March, and then just kind of the groundswell that was coming around it. Because it was kind of hard to say, hey, listen, we're thinking about this in our PD, but we don't know what it's gonna look like or what it's gonna be. To be able to say, like, we have a draft and now we have something to react to and respond to and talk about. So we realized where the clash came up and where some of the energy around it came. And I really appreciate the conversation that we were having last night. So stepping back and just kind of capturing some of these ideas and clarifying some of the communication. We've got a communication in our office that we're preparing for staff. And then a separate one for families, and just kind of linking some of these ideas and recapping the work to date and really just kind of resetting the direction moving forward.
And I appreciate your acknowledging the communication, and as I discussed with Dr. Dorr, I think had it even been previewed in September, like heads up, this is something we're thinking about, I think that we would not have seen quite the concern that we were met with. Melissa?
So Dr. Tellier, thank you so much for acknowledging parents' concerns. I feel like, and I said this last night, and I don't mean to say it again, but I'm gonna say it again. It feels like an aggressive timeline that's turned into an aggressive deadline to come to the school committee in June to vote on something that we officially just heard about in March. The committee, the parents have been told that this is a 2-year program or a 2-year pilot. You're calling this year 1, but it was really just ideas and drafts in the beginning of year 1. I don't think it, I think it's unfair to put this at the feet of the committee and parents during a very busy end of season, end of school year, extraordinarily busy time. This is a huge decision. I know that teachers are excited about it. I am not saying that I am opposed to it by any means. I want to learn more about it. I want to immerse myself in it. I want to get to know more of the excitement. And I think a parent last night brought up a great point that when we do have the pilot classrooms doing this next year, that if it is 10 classrooms, and I'm using this as an arbitrary number, let's make sure that it's not just 10 teachers that 100% are like ready to dive in without a safety harness. I want to just make sure that we have like a comprehensive group, because you know what you're going to get at the end of the day if everybody loves it. So I hope that we're reevaluating the timeline deadline of June. I just want to make sure that we are following our policy that says that we're having, you know, conversations with all the stakeholders kind of thing. And just to circle back at Dr. Durr, when you mentioned screen time, thank you so much for acknowledging it. I don't think it's nefarious that we don't have an opportunity or we don't have a tool to, you know, see how much screen time our children are receiving. I appreciate as a parent that you acknowledge that this is a big deal, and I'm gonna use myself, I should know how much time little Keefs are spending at school, so I know how much time they get at home. So thank you so much for acknowledging that, and thank you, Dr. Tellier, for reevaluating the deadline.
Leah, so I think a concern I have, Sonia, around this is that, like, we've brought a lot of these educator ease terms, like priority standards, which are actually the driving force around looking at really revamping a system around progress monitoring and things. I think it would be really great for parents to have an opportunity to learn about what priority standards are, how those are created. Because the truth is that those are those key points that we want our kids to have so they can go on to that next year, that then they can grow to that next year. But we really need to explain that in a way that makes sense. Because at being an administrator, I get caught in these words that we use a lot. But when I step back and say, hey, I talk about priority standards all the time, but a lot of people don't know what that means. And there's amazing research on why you should prioritize standards and focus on specific ones for our kids. And I think that if we had that information for parents too, they would understand a lot more about why we're moving forward with that. So I would love to see a presentation like that to go forward for parents in terms that are, we take out those educator, like basically everything that we've learned in school to being an educator, we should take this word out and kind of think about other words for it, because it's very hard once you go into, I'm so in this educator world, it's hard to step out of it, but it's important to.
Andrea.
I guess I'm thinking about this discussion in terms of, this is this issue that we're talking about, but it's really a process that I'm sure has unfolded multiple times for anything new that gets implemented in the district. And I think probably it would be good to come up with some parameters that would make people feel comfortable that they have enough information at the right time. Because what I've been hearing Sonia talking about in terms of, okay, so, some of these concepts I've been hearing tossed around at some of the school committee conferences. So I had some general awareness of sat in on some of these things. So when something new comes up like this, I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard about that. There are other districts doing this and they're seeing some really good results. So I'm not surprised by it. But when you hear about these good ideas, you then have to bring them back to your district and say, now, how are they going to work here, right? We can't just take it exactly like that and plunk it down in Falmouth and say, there, it's good. So I hear what you're doing as a process with teachers, that you need to figure out how do we craft this for our district. Then what is the professional development we need? Then we pilot and evaluate that pilot before it gets out. Now, somewhere along the line, I'm hearing that school committee wants to know about it, but there's this like push and pull of, well, we're not ready yet, we don't have this. And so I think going forward, there are going to be other things that come up that are following the exact same process. We should decide when that information needs to come along the way, because like Sonia was saying, you don't want to just come and say, well, we're thinking about something and we don't have all the answers for you, because then it sounds wishy-washy and it might come across like we don't know what we're doing, when that's not actually what's happening. That's just where they are in the process. So kind of putting some clarity around that about when we need to know what in that cycle that's going to happen again in the future would be helpful.
Taylor, on the timeline question, I really wish we would look at why the DESE started at the high school level with making grading changes, because I think of it as you envision that you're gonna have a new house and you say, okay, I want that new house. This is what I want. I want kids to use the standards for grading, blah, blah, blah. So how do I get there? I don't think you start at the bottom and say, this might work or this might work. I mean, I think there's a reason that they picked that age level. So I think we should really investigate that. And, we could write to them and say, why did you pick that age level?
What are you referring to? I'm sorry.
There's, DESE did a report that they published on their website that said, we're looking at a new grading system. It's under college and careers or something. And they explained it. They said, we're going to start at the high school, these 5 schools. And because they realize it's a very complicated project, they are giving financial support to these districts. They're giving them help to work with their teachers and groups, okay? And it's a 3-year thing. So why don't we look at that and say, maybe we're doing it backwards. Maybe we should start at the high school and work backwards so that we can build into it. I don't know. I'm just saying, and we should look into it. And heaven forbid, if we do all this work the DESI does their work and they give us new rubrics and we have to make new report cards again, because that could happen. That could very well happen. So I'm not saying, I think they're great. And the explanation that Sonia gave of them, they are great, those report cards. But it's like with Leah, I understand because I'm a teacher and I know what Bloom's taxonomy is. I mean, but I don't know, those people there know what Bloom's taxonomy is, but it's
Beyond teacher.
yeah. It's yeah. Oh, and I'm not that spending enough time. I mean, they're great, but I just kind of think and connect with Melissa. Do we really need to rush it for next year? Can't we take another year and start looking, analyzing things a little bit? Because we're fine with the report cards we have. So I'm not speaking against it. I'm speaking for just take a little more time because it's gonna be with us a long time, I think. So anyway, that was my timeline.
Thank you, Terry.
I was gonna bring, I really like Andrew's point.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I saw your hand up.
That, when Andrea mentioned that it was wishy-washy, saying that like how the PD was developing and like, oh, maybe we're gonna do it. And I totally appreciate that, like, you certainly don't wanna come to the school committee and say, we're thinking of this thing and it sounds really exciting. But my point is that you're thinking of this thing and now all of a sudden it's officially year one and the school committee, you want the school committee to vote on it and you want parents to be on board. That's all I mean by that. I'm not suggesting, and again, I also want to preface that by saying I'm not necessarily for it or against it. I just feel like when you, from the beginning of the year, been in this developing stage, developing, and then January, February, it sounds like it's really getting some wheels and really getting some momentum, and you want to put it, implement it as of next year, you're really gonna have to get some more, you're gonna have to sell it to me a little more as a mom, kind of thing, but that's all I meant by that. I certainly wasn't trying to, I don't need to, I don't think that you need to bring every single idea to the school. That's not what I was trying to say. That's
Just an update or notification.
yeah.
Go ahead. And I appreciate that because I don't think we were looking at making any changes until at least September 2024, until we started getting requests that some people wanted to be able to do it next year. And we were trying to figure out if we're going to honor that, and then through their lived experience, get that feedback. And I think that's where it took on a lot.
So Sonia's gonna send out a communication, as she said, to staff tomorrow. There'll be one out to families. All families will be invited, whoever would like to be on the advisory, parent advisory committee. She'll explain, kind of what that advisory is. Be a commitment over time. We certainly had all intentions that this was going to be through next year. So even if, I know they'll go back and talk about it, but the parents will continue. On the 17th, there is a forum. So if you don't want to be on the advisory committee, but you just want to be informed, there'll be a forum that's specifically about this, that will share more information around all this. And we will continue the communication. We had talked too, whether June was the right time to bring it to you, because it's gonna be still in development next year. That's the whole idea of a pilot, it's gonna be informed. So, if you're voting in June, you're not necessarily voting on that final product, right? It's still gonna be in development, there's still gonna be parent input, there's still gonna, so I don't know that June, right? There's still a long timeline to go. So when does that actually happen? And I think that's a good point for us to kind of work through. When is that, if we wanna put that timeline, we wanna make sure that we have a lot of communication around it, then as we heard last night from the teachers, like, we don't even have an example yet.
Then I think June is too.
Yeah, I agree, but not wanting to leave out the school committee and making a decision, right? And we even talked about, does the school committee kind of endorse us moving forward in this process, that you're not yet voting on something that we don't actually have? Yeah. Does that make sense?
So you mentioned a forum on May 17th.
Yes.
So that would be focused on mastery-based learning.
Yes.
And what time and where will that forum be held?
I don't think we have a location, which is why she's
holding. Okay, but holding May 17th.
5 to 6. 5 to 6, I think is
I
what he
think,
said
yeah.
aside. Okay. And we're just waiting to confirm location because this time of year,
Yes.
every big space we want is
Okay.
reserved.
Okay, but definitely on May 7th.
May 7th.
And hopefully available by Zoom, because at 5 o'clock, like people work, like no one's getting anywhere before 5:15. Maybe
We
later.
could adjust that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Zoom would be helpful too, because if you're gonna do
I
a
do,
presentation, yeah.
Okay, we will.
And just some way to make sure
Yeah,
that
I
you
know.
can access it,
Yeah.
because
So we'll talk with Brian and see.
Yeah.
Just jumping and record it if we do Zoom.
Yeah.
Just to have
Oh,
it,
that'd
yeah.
be great.
But it's way less than that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's good information so that we can get it out. further. Okay.
Okay, so, yes.
And sorry, just to wrap up real quick, additional topics that are still yet to be discussed that we haven't got around to are just the computer responsibility, permission form, student data. They're still on our list, where our list grows. Last night, there were a couple new topics that were added around gender identity and consequences for behaviors in the district. So it's even, the discussions have been great, and it's even kind of going out beyond, really this, the initial that we were going around screen time. So I just wanted to add that. And we have our next forum set, and it's gonna be May 8th. From 6 to, 6 or whatever. I would say 6 to 7, but we've been pretty good on the 2.5 hours here. So 6 to whenever, and we're gonna be at Morse Pond Cafeteria. So we did find a location, we're gonna set up, and we started at the high school in Florence, we're going to Morse Pond, we're just gonna make a trip around the schools in the district.
Okay.
So, and that is it, thank you so much.
Great. So just to recap again, a general forum, a listening session on May 8th at Morse Pond Cafeteria at 6. And then a mastery-based learning forum specific, which is the report cards that we're hearing about on May 17th, location to be determined.
Yes.
Okay, great. Anything else from your update? Thank you. Okay, so next to routine business, approve the minutes of April 10th, 2023. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Any edits to the minutes? Nothing? No. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Committee member reports. Terry.
Okay, this one's happy, everybody. Okay, it's from this. First, as I do each month, I will say the student of the month in April was Ian Maxim. Hope I said that right. And at this last directors meeting, at the beginning of April, we heard a report from Mr. David Sugar about the junior achievement program that they bring into our classrooms for the 3rd and 4th graders. And junior achievement is a program dedicated to giving young people the knowledge and skills they need to own their own economic success, plan their future, and make smart and academic, is highlighted, and economic choices. And in addition to life skills, this program makes bridges for them on what's going around with Cape, because they look at Cape businesses. And it isn't just about business, it's about thinking about what you need to buy, planning. There's all kinds of things from his demonstration, which didn't last that long. So I heartily request to have that on as a future agenda item. This is thanks to Laura that I bought something to look at. This is, it shows, your hot dog stand, and it talks about, we gotta get your supplies and teach them about that. You gotta figure out the best way to price your hot dogs. And then I love this one, treat your customers well. I love that. But anyway, it is a fabulous program. So I really hope we can have a presentation on it.
Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
Any other committee member remarks?
Yeah, 2 things. One, first, giant thank you to Melissa for her many email responses.
I'm behind, sorry.
Having done it, thank you so much for your thoughtful
I
responses.
promised I would get all of them.
And 2, last night I got to listen to Dr. Patel, the director of the MBL, give an incredible presentation at the high school for the Science Honor Society induction. And I just want to say, thank you to Chris Brothers for organizing that, because his talk, although he is like a world-class scientist, was actually about how his teachers in high school changed the course of his life. And it was so powerful, and the kids were so engaged. They had all these questions about how they could get an internship at MBL. It was wonderful. And, you know, Chris Brothers gets a lot of attention for and awards for all the work that she does, and it is so deserving. And I really appreciated that she went that extra mile to get such an incredible speaker.
Thank you, Kelly. Leah.
Oh. No, I already had my turn.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
I'll wait.
No, midnight deadline, Carrie, for evaluation.
I want to thank you guys. It's historic, the amount of evaluations we've got. Okay, it's good. You're all grading me, right? I said I didn't come to your house.
Yeah. So today is the deadline for the superintendent evaluation, so make sure you get that to Terry and we will.
And you can look at the timeline and see where the process goes from here, in case any of you. I mean, I put them on the letters I send out every time, so, because I used to hunt for the trip. No, what I would, are you done?
Yeah, that was my update, just making sure. Okay, thank you. Evaluator Melissa, and then back to you.
I just want to say that the policy subcommittee met yesterday. We had some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But we powered through and we talked about responsible use of policy, review of school finance policies. We talked about student discipline policy, of which a lot of that comes from the state. I just want to say that out loud. A lot of it is not, a lot of it comes from the state. I'm just gonna leave that there. And then we reviewed public comment policy also, which comes from the state. And then we were asked to review the MASC, Massachusetts Association of School Committee, March 2023 policy newsletter. So still more things to come. Policy is a working document. And it's exhausting.
Thank you, policy subcommittee.
Another happy thing, I went to a boys lacrosse game today because it was Barnstable, so they had to go and they won 9-3.
Oh.
Concord Red, so that's good.
Any other committee member report? Okay, follow-up information request related to presentations. I saw your hand kind of go up a little bit. Okay, I have to make sure that it's the right time and place. Okay, it has to be about tonight's presentation, mine's not, so I gotta. Yes. Oh, okay, that's what I was trying to like read your hands. I gotta take form. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'm gonna make a motion.
And a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.